Alrighty. And we are live. Hello, everyone. Good morning. Happy Sunday. Let me just check some settings really quick. Audio looks good. Video looks good. Excellent. And if anybody notices any lagging or anything, definitely let me know. Hello. Welcome. Welcome back to another Q&A. I hope you guys are having a fantastic weekend so far. Hello, 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 Mystical. G-Girl, hi. Hi, Monica. Rose from Montana, hello. Hello, I did get your email, by the way. Don't worry, I will be getting back to you later this afternoon after we get off the live. And thank you for being here. Bubba, Dark Eyes. Colonel Moonlight. Wonderful. Welcome, you guys. Welcome, welcome. Tracy, hi. Oh, yay. We've already got some of my favorite people here. Northwest Wind, hello. Oh, this is going to be good. This is going to be good. So we're going to jump in here in just a moment. I'm going to give it a few more seconds, 30 seconds or so, to let people get the notification, come on in, that whole sort. Hello, hello. Hope everyone is doing fabulous. I hope everyone is having an incredible week and weekends. Already got some good questions rolling in. John, hello. Hello. Good evening to you, sir. I know it's evening over where you are in Scotland. And it's probably afternoon or evening for most people here, unless you're like me and on the West Coast. Aw. Hello. Fantastic. Let me just check something really quick, you guys. 1 second. And we'll go ahead and get started. Okay. All right, I think we're good. I think we're good. Hello, Mylene. Hello, Mai. Sonia, Journey. The God. The God. I like that. Alrighty. Y'all are wonderful. Thank you for being here. Let's go ahead and just jump on in. Let's dive in and get started. I know I'm running a few minutes behind anyways, so and I know more people will be joining as we start to go into it. So with all that said, again, if anyone notices any lagging or weird audio or anything like that, just let me know. But on my end, settings look good. Welcome, guys. Thank you so much again to be here for another week of Q&As. This is my favorite time of the week. I love being here. I love answering your guys' questions because this is some of the most important things to understand. The law is incredibly important to understand, and I know it can be tumultuous out there. So anything that I can do to help, I am here for it. But I guess before we go ahead and dive in, a few quick announcements. I do have resources down in the description box, as always. I will have a couple more spots opening up early next week for one-on-one coaching. So if you're not on the waiting list, I definitely recommend going down below and signing up, because I will be sending out information through the wait list. And it is first come, first served basis. There's only a couple spots, but if that is something that you're interested in, be sure you are signed up so you can get more information about that as it rolls out next week. I also have links down there for my Manifest a Specific Person Masterclass and the waitlist to join my group coaching program. And I also have a self-concept master course coming out here in the next week or so. So stay tuned for more information on that, because self-concept is the most important thing to know and understand. And unfortunately, there's a lot a lot of confusion around self-concept and what that means and all of that. So tons of resources down there. If you're interested, check it out down below. And with all that said, get some caffeine in my bloodstream. I'm gonna go ahead and get started. Da, 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 da. Hey, Missy, do we just change the story? Visualize something and feel good through our heart, but we don't use our head when visualizing? Just feeling with our heart. If I understand the question correctly, Mystical, and correct me if I'm wrong, but first, do we just change the story? I mean, in effect, yes. Yeah, that's what we're doing here. We're aiming to change the story or the narrative, the beliefs and assumptions that we have about any given circumstance or just general beliefs and assumptions. And the feeling is what's the most important. Absolutely. I'm not quite sure what you mean by feeling good through the heart, but not using our head. Essentially, it is a feeling, and it is, but it's not necessarily an emotion that we're aiming for. I made a video talking more about feeling is the secret a couple of videos back, and in there I talk about when we speak about feeling, it's the feeling of naturalness, not so much emotions, that we need to feel very emotional about our imaginal act. Emotions might come up. I mean, we may, naturally become emotional when we imagine it, but it's not what we're aiming for. I would definitely recommend checking out the video. I think it's the video before last, if I recall correctly. And we don't have to do visualizing per se. We don't have to visualize if we don't want to, or if it's not something that comes very naturally to us. A lot of people prefer inner conversations, even affirmations, so it's more than anything about, capturing the feeling of naturalness by imagining what it would be like if you were now the person that you desire to be, or having the experience that you desire to have. I hope that makes sense. But again, if I misunderstood anything, let me know. When you say to go back to the scene, how much do we need to do this? Can't we just visualize and drop it? Why did Neville say to go back? That's a really good question. That's a really good question. Going back to the scene, how many times do we need to do this? 70 times 7, as it says in the Bible. Can we visualize once and drop it? Can we imagine something one time and drop it? Yes. I mean, technically speaking, yes. But the reason that we want to go back is because, typically speaking, when we have a desire for something, especially for big things, what we would call big things, there's typically a lot of conflicting beliefs and assumptions around that desire, right? So we may desire a specific person, but perhaps we have an old narrative with this person. There's a lot of backstory that's not ideal. Perhaps we have a belief that we're not good enough, right? What that's going to do is it's going to push us out of the wish fulfilled. We're going to find ourselves reverting back to an old state or an old story if that's been the familiar narrative for us. So we can imagine once and drop it, but if we ever find ourselves double-minded, if we ever find ourselves going back to that old story, then we would want to go back. So it's continuing to go back to that state of the wish fulfilled until that becomes the natural dominant state. And how many times do we have to do this? 70 times 7? Or until the eye is fixed as if nailed with a sword. Basically, until it is fixed in our mind as done, basically. Random question, would you ever consider doing vlog videos? I mean I consider it if that was something that people were interested in. Uh, yeah, I'd consider it. That is a random question, and I like it, though. I would definitely love that. Aw, so grateful to have found you. Thank you, Tabia. Tabia? Tabia? Apologies if I'm not pronouncing your name correctly, but thank you for that. Yeah, I would consider that. Excuse me, I would consider that for sure. If I want to manifest certain grades in a specific exam but already got different ones, what happens if I revise? Do they just change on paper, or will a bridge unfold that'll lead to preferred ones? Good question. So, if we want to revise our grades that we got different grades, um, what would happen? Likely scenario two, a bridge would unfold that would lead you to that preferred outcome. Yeah. Like exactly what that looks like or how that bridge unfolds, I couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you. But if you were to revise that you got different grades on the exam that you just took, a bridge would unfold to lead you to that outcome. Yeah. Mm, whoops. If two people are manifesting for the same thing, who wins? For example, wanting the same job position. That is an awesome question. And I made a video talking about this. One of my older videos is one of the first ones that I made. But essentially, if two people are manifesting for the same thing, they both get it in their respective reality. See, in your reality, it's whatever you imagine. That's why we say like you are the operant power of your reality. From your eyes, from your point of view, the experience that you're having, you have final say. So in this scenario, if you and another person wanted the same job position, in your reality, if you imagine yourself as already having that job, then you would get that job. In her respective reality, that may be a completely different outcome. But yeah, there is no such thing as competition. That's not a real thing that exists. It's again, you are the operant power in your reality. Sorry, I am a little sleepy this morning, guys. Apologies if I'm yawning a lot. Thank you for the super chat. Thank you, Sonia. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. I am manifesting a new job and the department I want to go to, but my work bestie got it. Why is that happening? Oh, so you've been manifesting a new job, but your work friend got it? Why did that happen? I mean, well, okay, so if anytime we've had an aim, anytime that there's been something that we've been trying to manifest and it didn't come to pass, it didn't unfold, I mean, we wanna look at our mental diet. We wanna look at, were we in fact living in the end for that period of time, right? So, was there any confliction that somebody else might get the job? Was there any fears that somebody else might get the job? Was there any doubts? Um, are there any are do you have perhaps more general beliefs that you never get chosen or that you're overlooked or that you're second best? And I say this because I used to have these same kind of beliefs too. And they would affect me in all different areas of my life. I used to have strong beliefs that, I was easily overlooked and that I never got what I wanted. So naturally, that would happen in every facet of my life. So anytime something anytime that we've been aiming for something and it didn't happen, we just want to return to our mental diet. Like we want to be paying close attention. We want to be taking careful observation of the thoughts, reactions, and moods and feelings that we've been having in the day. because that's going to tell you what state of consciousness you're dwelling in, and dominantly what state you're dwelling in, and if we're being double-minded or not. Because double-mindedness is why we miss the mark, so to speak. Um, but just because it did not go the way that you wanted it to go doesn't mean that you need to accept that. You can always, in that case, turn to revision, and I would revise it to where instead you got the job. Yeah, and this is a perfect example of a scenario in which revision would be an incredibly helpful tool. I hope that made sense. Let me know if I need to clarify anything. Thank you for the super chat, Journey. Thank you. That is so sweet. I don't see if you had a question attached to that. Yeah, if you had a question, Journey, I'll be on the lookout, but I didn't see anything attached to that, but thank you. Lucy, hi. Hello. Hello, hello. Hi, Missy. For Sats, I'm having trouble settling on words SB says. One night they feel perfect, but I feel a need to tweak them the next. The scene is the same, so I don't change that. Is this a problem? So for Sats, tweaking the dialogue a bit for what SP is saying, that shouldn't be, no. No. And it's easy to get caught up in some of the, like, logistics of the scene. I wouldn't worry about those. What ultimately matters is the feeling, right? So if the dialogue is a little bit different, but it's generating the same feeling, it's taking you to that state of the wish fulfilled, and you're able to tap into that, that's what ultimately matters. Yeah. Thank you for the super chat, by the way. Thank you, Charlie. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, where was I? Um, I don't see the question, Charlie. Sorry. I'm a little confused about the question, Charlie. Well, I didn't see a question there. Would you mind clarifying what the question is? My apologies. Yeah, if you can help me clarify that a little bit, I would be more than happy to answer. Hi, Misty. I looked up the entanglement photons theory you mentioned from the Nobel Prize winners. This is physics finally proving we're not separate from our desires, correct? Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, that's correct. That is correct. Hi, Missy. Do you have any suggestions for videos to watch when you're feeling unmotivated when manifesting SP? Absolutely. Yeah, so I found that it's really helpful if you cultivate a playlist, like create a playlist that you can go to in times where you're feeling motivated or unmotivated or frustrated. Um, I mean, success stories are always good ones, right? Everybody loves a good success story. Uh, Anything that inspires you, if there's any type of like just motivation videos in general that you find uplifting or inspiring. I know that there's a lot of channels that do just general inspiration videos, things like that. Um, your favorite music, your favorite songs, and anything that is going to help you, I guess, move into a better state. Just something to help you get out of that funk per se. And I would have a go-to playlist, something that you can just be like, man, I am feeling like crap today. I'm not feeling motivated to do anything. And I would, just curate it with all the things that really helped you get you excited again. Yeah. Would letting go of SP not give the same effect as manifesting? Isn't it so that when you let go of an ex or something, they often come back? Sometimes I think this way would be way easier. Good question. So, would letting go of SP not be the same effect as manifesting? I mean, essentially what you're referring to is detachment. And not detachment of the desire or the person themselves per se, but detachment from that state of, fear or worry or doubt, old story, things like, detachment from the unwanted state, right? And that's really the ultimate aim of what we're trying to get to here. We're aiming to move into and occupy a new state of consciousness that is that which lines up with what we desire, right? Like feeling that relationship as something that is normal and natural and expected for you. Because I mean, it is often the case that as soon as we let go of someone, as soon as we move on, that's when they show up again, and that is in effect detachment. But we don't have to give up. We don't have to go about. That's in fact, I wouldn't recommend that way of detachment because it doesn't feel really good, and you're not really focused on changing your concept of self in that scenario. So it hasn't. I mean, in the short term, it might be effective, but long term, I not so much. Um, but yeah, we do the techniques that we do all of this. Imagining living in the end, it's all to get to a place of separation from that old unwanted state. So yeah, that is manifesting in a nutshell. What can you recommend to manifest a new job when SATs and scripting don't feel like they've worked? I'm just not feeling it. Oh, I'm sorry, John. Yeah. And if it feels like SATs or scripting doesn't work, ask yourself if there's any technique or method or any way in which, imagining feels most natural to you. Like which method out of the ones that you've experimented and played around with, like which one has felt the most realistic or resonated for you? Um, because if it's not SATs or scripting, that's totally fine. It's not the techniques themselves that manifest, as many people here have heard. It's not the techniques that actually do anything. It's how they make us feel. It's how the technique makes us feel. It helps to suspend perhaps any disbelief that we have about the desire. So whatever method or technique has helped you in the past, whatever that might be, that's the one I would use. That's the one I would continue to just get more and more familiar with, because the more that you use that technique, it's going to become even more and more natural and resonate more and more with you. So Yeah, I wouldn't suggest continuing to try to force ourselves to use techniques that feel like work, or if it feels like we're trying to force ourselves to do something, I certainly don't recommend that. Finding my spot again. How can I restart my life? I want to change every aspect of my life, changing my childhood family identity. Any tips? How can I do this? Absolutely. I would create a whole new story. If what you want ultimately is like a complete reset, new childhood, new everything, yeah, I would create a whole new story, which is in effect revision, essentially. It's essentially a revision. Um, but just how you would write out a script or a screenplay for a character for a movie, we can do something similar for ourselves. Like we can sort of rewrite um, what we would have wanted to have happen to us, basically create new memories. So, first I would get clear on what each area looks like. So perhaps, get an idea, write down in each aspect of your life, what are some things that you would have wanted to experience in this new story, right? In this new story where things went the way that you would have wanted it to go, get clear on each area of that. And from there you can you'll start to get more and more creative as to memories or scenes that you can use for revision. But yeah, I would start there with just first kind of breaking it down into different categories, like childhood, what was that? Family identity. Yeah, each of those areas, separate them and get clear on what you would want that to look like instead. And then create the new memories. Because we can do that with revision. We don't have to just revise memories that we've had. It's not just about rewriting old memories, it's also the creation of new ones. So yeah. I've been doing your advice to not accept what I see in 3D, but how is it possible if I've been blocked from everywhere and was told he can't speak to me to focus on his new relationship? So how do we ignore the 3D when it seems impossible? Nothing is impossible. It might appear that way. It might look in a way that is seemingly impossible, but to God, all things are possible. To awareness, to I am, all things are possible, right? So you're looking at it through the very, very, very limited scope that is the ego, right? The conscious, logical mind, and trying to grab and make sense with what's going on. You'll never be able to do it through the very limited scope that is the ego mind, um, because anything is possible. I literally just interviewed an old client who initiated contact with their person after 15 years, no social media, different countries. I mean, about as impossible scenarios that you could possibly imagine. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. And first we need to accept that we're not going to know from the conscious ego mind what that looks like, how it's possible for it to happen. We're not going to know if we're looking at through that limited scope. We're never going to know. And I would definitely focus on building your trust and faith in yourself is the operant power. And when I say you, that is the I am. That your awareness of being, that is God. And God can literally do anything. Nothing is impossible to God. Nothing at all. So I would focus on things to help build up your trust and faith in yourself. In yourself as the operant power, and in the law, because we can always fall back onto that in these instances that seem impossible to us. When the 3D looks like it's not budging, it's not moving, there's no way I'm going to overcome this. We can lean into that. We can lean into the faith and trust that I am is God. God can do anything. And we do not have to know what that looks like consciously. In fact, we won't know what that looks like, and that's okay. Because whatever we imagine, whatever we continue to imagine, has to be expressed. It has to. It literally has to. And if we don't believe that, then, I mean, we can prove it wrong, or we can try to prove it wrong, or we can prove it to ourselves, but one way or the other, this is a perfect example of why faith is so important. Yeah. Oh my goodness, Dark Ives. I'm making a note to reach out and send you an email this afternoon, right after this. You should have been forwarded to a page with all of that information. I am so sorry. Hang on one moment. Yeah. Well, make sure you get taken care of this afternoon. Yeah, so sorry about that. Chi-chan, hello, hello. Thank you for joining. Let me go back. When visualizing a scenario of money, is giddiness the goal? As I can't get excited about the impossible. Good question. When visualizing a scenario about money, is giddiness the goal? No. No. The feeling of naturalness is the goal. So we're asked to go to the end, right? We're asked to imagine that we are now already the person we want to be or experience. So in this scenario, that is abundance, right? You desire to be wealthy and abundant. If you were already a millionaire, would you be giddy every day? Would that feel like something you're super excited about? If this is just a normal way of life for you? Say you've been a millionaire for years now. Would you wake up feeling that giddiness and excitement? I mean, maybe, but for most people, it just feels normal. If you talk to any millionaire, that the fact that they have money is just like as normal as the fact that they breathe air, right? So it's not the emotion. It's not that we need to get excited about it. It's not that we need to feel giddiness about it. We just want to get to the place where it feels normal. It feels natural. Like we look at our bank account, we see X amount of dollars, and we're like, yeah, cool. Right? I mean, we may notice sometimes we get a feeling of excitement come over us, right? Just like in the 3D, we may feel moments of gratitude. Like emotions might naturally pop up and pop in from here, there, time to time, but for the most part, it's just going to feel like the most natural thing in the world, right? So yeah, that's what we're aiming to get to. In order to manifest SP or anything, does it really come down to having a consistent state of mind no matter how hard life throws at you daily? Is the consistency and the length of time the key? Yes. Essentially, yes. So to manifest, it really comes down to having that consistent state of mind. Yeah, yeah. You want it to be the natural dominant state of mind is the ideal, because otherwise, what we're doing is we're double minded, right? We're going back and forth between the wish fulfilled and fear, doubt, uncertainty, old story. And from that place, if we're going back and forth, it's going to manifest as nothing's changing. So it's the consistency and the length of time. Mhm. Mhm. Exactly right. And that's what the 12 disciples were about. I made a video talking about the 12 disciples and kind of translating into what that meant, like from the esoteric meaning of the Bible. The 12 disciples were the 12 states of mind, the 12 qualities of the mind that we want to um, essentially it's like we want to master, I guess. A disciple is another word for discipline. So the 12 disciplines of the mind. And the first one being the disciple of hearing only what we want to hear, no matter what's being said in the 3D, no matter what we get wind of, we only take in what we desire to hear and reject all the rest. So yeah, and definitely check out that video if you haven't seen it yet. I think that will be a helpful one for you. Hard not using my mind, analyzing, controlling, masculine side, and being into the feminine, trusting power. But when I realized I was too masculine in the past, I feel shame. Believing in the new gets hard. Absolutely. And I've talked to a couple guys about this because I know you know for a lot of men, generally speaking, I'm not speaking for every man out there, but generally, men tend to be more, you know, aggressive and like doing stuff, right? Taking action, things like that, versus feminine, which is kind of leaning back and allowing. Uh, and yeah, it can certainly be tricky. And I mean, at least from what my husband's told me, what's helped him is taking action in the mind. Um, for him, like, of course, it takes some practice, but the way that he described it is like, when he, you know, constructs what he wants, like he sees himself taking action and imagination first, and it gives him the same sense of satisfaction as it would playing it out in the 3D. Um, and yeah, like I said, it might take some getting used to and adjusting to, but with practice, it does come easier. That I do promise. Oh, before everything's said, thanks for all you do for us and your great talent of interpreting and transmitting to us the way that you do. Thank you. Thank you, Terry. Thank you. And my absolute pleasure. My absolute pleasure. I'm glad that you find it helpful. Sincerely. Oh my God, Mark. Holy crap, dude. Thank you for the super chat. What? Please take your husband out to dinner on me. I had an amazing July. Dude, thank you. Holy. Thank you so much. You did not have to do that. Thank you. And I will. I will. I'm excited to catch up tomorrow, see what happened. You're the best, dude. A collab between you and Manifesting with Kimberly would be hilarious. I actually it's been a while. It's been a couple years, but I have done some lives with Manifesting with Kimberly. Um, yeah, it's been like 2 years or so. it's been way too long, but I have done some live streams where we collab together, and it was so much fun. Oh, man. That was a lot of fun. Yeah, we may have to revisit that again soon. Hi, Missy. So excited to start my one-on-one coaching for the next 12 weeks. Yes! Me too. Me too. I'm excited too. Um, okay, Charlie, I think I understand. So during this week, I did a meditation and connected with my higher self. I had the assumption you have a meditation about I am the universe. Um, you sent it to your you sent the link to the meditation to your SP. Um, he was watching the video and fell asleep, and the link was sent to me. Not sure. I'm still a little confused on the question, Charlie. I'm so sorry. If you're asking how something was sent to you through Signal, oh, how did he send a link from YouTube to Signal Messenger app? So a glitch in the matrix? Is that what you're describing? Something was sent to you in a way that it should not have been able to happen? Is what I take? And again, I do apologize if I'm not understanding correctly. But yeah, those kind of glitches happen all the time. All the time. Things that should not have been possible, yeah, they can always be possible. I would continue to keep going to the end. Is this a bridge of events? I mean, it very well could be. The thing with the bridge of events, we're not going to know that we're on the bridge. Typically speaking, at least most of the time, we're not going to know we're on a bridge until after the fact. Yeah, a lot of the movement that happens on that bridge is unconscious. We're not aware of what we're doing or what somebody else is doing. It all sort of unfolds naturally and perfectly, and we not typically assume it or become observant of it until after. Like, we'll look back in hindsight and say, oh, that was a bridge. Oh, wow, that was a bridge. Yeah. So if we're constantly looking to, is this a bridge? Is this a bridge? Assume that it is and keep going. We do not want to get caught up. And I do have a video coming out about this because we're using the 3D, like looking for BBLs and bridge of events, and don't get caught up out here. This is all old. All the 3D, it's all old news. It's all old information. You're never going to get like new stuff out here. Mm-mm. Signs follow. Oh, hi, Missy. My cat died unexpectedly 2 days ago. Oh, Priscilla, I'm so sorry. I tried a revision while she was in the vet agonizing, but I failed miserably. Did I manifest this? Do you have any advice to deal with grief? Thank you. Oh, damn it. I'm so sorry. Yeah, do we manifest this? Do we manifest other people's deaths? I mean, not in the way that, like, not you as Priscilla, not the you that is yourself. So no, we would not. We're not deliberately and consciously manifesting things that cause us grief, right? I know it's easy to get hard on ourselves when there's a passing of a loved one or a pet, because pets are family, naturally. It's really easy to get hard on ourselves, especially if you know about the law, know about manifestation. You start to think, well, did I do it? Was I at fault? You, as Priscilla, did not do anything of the sort. Not at all. And any advice to deal with the grief? I mean, be extra, extra kind to yourself right now. Continue to revise, continue to imagine, and just know that death is not real, not in the sense that we think it is. There is no such thing as like ceasing to exist. Our loved ones are still very much with us. They're still very much alive. They're still very much real in every sense of the word. Yeah. So know that above all else. And much, much love. I'm so sorry. Manifested a celebrity SP to have an Instagram after not having one ever. Any advice to get contact? This isn't someone super famous, but I have doubts about him responding to me. Okay, first off, I mean, that's cool. That's cool about the manifesting the Instagram account. Okay. Yeah. I would continue to imagine what that would look like, right? So it could be, for example, imagining a scene where you open up your phone and there's a DM from him through Instagram. You know, whatever you want it to look like. But you just wanted to imply that he has in fact reached out and initiated contact. And as far as it not feeling believable, I know that that's the biggest area in which we struggle. Is the biggest reason why double-mindedness exists, because we don't believe that this thing is possible. So instead of trying to look at it like I need to visualize or I need to imagine to get this certain outcome, I would just do it for the sake of enjoying it, right? Just allow yourself to imagine what it would be like and what it would feel like, because it feels good to do so. Because why not? You know, give yourself permission to have fun in your imagination. You know, if we approach this in a way of like just almost like a childlike curiosity or a childlike sense of we're just playing with this. If we can get ourselves to that place, everything becomes effortless. Because it should be. Like, imagining should be fun. We should be having fun with this. If it feels too stressful, if it feels like a lot of work, if it feels like we're constantly stressing about our imaginal acts, that's just not a place to manifest from. That's not ideal whatsoever. So I'd say, you know, imagine a scene and enjoy it. Just have fun with it. Just have fun with it. You've already manifested him to create an account. Think about what else you're capable of, because that's pretty cool, I gotta say. I consider that a pretty big one right there. Yeah. Have fun with it. Have fun with it. This is so weird, but there's someone who I don't know in person who I wish to have as a parental figure slash mentor. Any tips when it feels odd and I'm kind of embarrassed when I imagine? Oh, I no, there's no need to be embarrassed. No need to be embarrassed. Not at all. If you have a desire, it's something that you are meant to experience. Like that desire is a gift to you. And I think sometimes we need to come back and remember that. And if any time we feel embarrassment or like, oh, I shouldn't want to imagine this, or this is so silly, or anything like that. No, no, it's a gift to you. You know, anytime it feels like weird or silly, just remind yourself of that. If this is something I desire, it's something I am meant to experience. Why else would we have desires, right? So, yeah. Yeah, also, it's your imagination, it's your world, it's your playground, have fun with it, truly and sincerely. Yeah, truly and sincerely, have fun with it. I would so enjoy a Missy Brian Scott collab. That'd be cool. Brian Scott's great, I love his videos. Alright, let me find my spot. Hey, Missy, is it true that you can feel ill while shifting states when the old man is dying? Um, yeah, it can happen that we feel weird, we feel odd. You mean as we're sort of transitioning from one dominant state to another, I assume? Yeah, yeah, there's times where we can get some backlash in there. That old man puts up a fight. Yeah, yeah, it's not uncommon, but it does subside. That I do promise. Hi, Missy. Thoughts on partial manifestations? What's going on? What is it? Thank you. Good question, Anna. Partial manifestations are something unfolding that, we end up reverting our attention back to the 3D. Essentially, we impress the desire, we impress subconsciously that desired outcome. We're living in the end, things begin to unfold, and then we turn our attention right back to the 3D. It's basically when we get sucked back into double mindedness, basically. Yeah. That's why I always say, like, continue to go to the end. Continue to imagine always. Always, always, always be going back to imagination. If you see something in the 3D that is not ideal, go here. Always. Because yeah, it's otherwise something begins to unfold and then we revert right back because we're redirecting ourselves. Like, it's almost like once we start seeing movement in the 3D, we completely forget about everything that we've learned here about the law and just go right back to the 3D. Don't do that. I dreamed about my SP showing up, and within that dream, I suddenly realized that my manifestation has indeed worked, though no movement in the 3D. What does that dream mean regarding my subconscious mind? It there was definitely a seed that was planted and impressed, is what that means. Yeah. So you had a dream about your desired outcome, but it hasn't yet shown up in the 3D? Well, dreams are a fantastic indication as to what is playing around up there subconsciously. So I would take that as something good. I would definitely take that as a good thing, for sure. Um, yeah, just continue to expand upon that in imagination. Continue to go back to the wish fulfilled in imagination. Yeah, that's always a good indication. Thank you for the super chat, Jay Green. If we struggle to believe 100% that the law will work, does that cause it to not work for us? I'm thinking that might be my issue, but I'm not sure. Thank you. Good question. So if we don't believe 100% that the law works, will it not work for us? No, the law is working all the time, whether whether or not we believe in it, the law is always working. And we don't have to have 100% conviction in order for it to work. Um, yeah, no, no, we don't have to be. I mean, if you've heard Neville's story about the first time he consciously manifested something, the trip to Barbados, he had a lot of doubts. He was riddled with doubts, constantly going back to Abdullah saying, "What do I do? The date's coming closer. I still don't have tickets. I have no way to get there." But he just continued to go back to imagination. He continued to, despite the fact that there were doubts and there were times that he wavered a lot, he continued to go in his mind to Barbados, and he would walk as if he were in Barbados in his imagination. Um, so no, no, we don't need to have 100,000% conviction in the law, or it doesn't work. Now, is it going to be more helpful if we do have trust in the law? Absolutely. So that's why I do say, like, faith is a really big it's a really big component to this. It's a really important one that's easily overlooked. We want to continue to observe and build our faith in the law. So testing it, observation of our natural day-to-day thoughts, looking back over the past in instances where we had something manifest based on what we were assuming, right? Because we can all do that. We can all look back and say, yeah, this thing happened because I was in this kind of mindset. So ways in which we can build up our faith, it's going to make things infinitely more simple and uh, with less resistance. But do we have to believe 100%? No, no. If you keep going back to the imaginal act and keep imagining yourself as the person you desire to be, yeah, the law will still work. How fast can revision work? It can work pretty damn fast. I've seen revisions play out in literally minutes. Y'all want some collabs. Might have to make that happen. Oh, thank you, Miss Mel Mel. Would like to be good. Would like to be a good singer on YouTube. I'm practicing and using imagination at the same time. Any experience with getting better at a skill while using manifestation? Absolutely. Well, I mean, we're always manifesting. We're always, always, always manifesting. But in this case, I know you mean consciously, but uh, yeah, I mean, kind of the same example as what you've mentioned. I've recently started to take vocal lessons again. 'Cause I used to sing when I was much younger, and recently I've started to get back into it. I quit smoking a couple years ago. That was the biggest thing that really did a number. But you know, one of the things that happened, one of my bridges that came to me was met the most fantastic vocal coach I've ever met. Like phenomenal, phenomenal coach. So that was me continuing to go to the end and continuing to see myself, imagining myself as having a good voice, for example. Um, so yeah, whatever would need to happen to get you there will happen. And if that's in the form of a great coach or the best resources, or even just, you know, like subtle changes in your body to help you become a better singer. But yeah, yeah, I would continue to see that desired outcome in imagination. Yeah. Hi, Missy. I love your channel. Oh, thank you, Cherry. I want to get rid of a colleague who has taken my position. Should I just focus on my desire to get my position back, or should I make a story that he has quit? I would just focus on seeing yourself in that position again. I would just focus on seeing yourself in that position again. Like, whatever that looks like and however that's implied, I would do that. Because whatever needs to happen for that to take place is going to happen. So we don't have to come up with a story as to how somebody quit or yeah, I wouldn't worry about any of that. I would just go back to seeing yourself as having that position. Then whatever needs to happen will happen. Yeah. How might we manifest being fluent in a new language faster than normal? Good question. I would myself personally, I would imagine hearing somebody tell me, "Damn, how did you get that good at this language in 6 months," or whatever. Like, imagine that confirmation, and it's probably, in the form of somebody saying, "Congratulations. What's your secret? How did you do that? How did you become fluent in a language so quickly?" I would personally approach it like that. Yeah, and play around either with inner conversations or, um, visual scenes, something like that. Yeah. "Hi, dear. Manifested SB contact, but he again disappeared. How can we stop this inconsistent behavior?" Yeah. So inconsistent behavior, in another person, in this case, your specific person, if somebody is showing up hot and cold, it's reflection of the hot and cold within ourself. So it's a reflection of us going back and forth within ourselves. That's exactly what it is. So if we're noticing inconsistencies on the outside, that's pointing to we are being double-minded on the inside. And so I would take a close look at your mental diet, like what you are saying, thinking, feeling, etc., in the day to day. And very, very keenly aware and not only aware, but we have to be honest with ourselves, which can admittedly not always be the easiest thing to do. But if we're becoming aware that we are having conflicting thoughts, uh, perhaps conflicting reactions, perhaps, one moment we're living in the end, we're feeling good, we're imagining this amazing scene, we feel great. And then a couple moments later, we're questioning, we're doubting, we're wondering what they're doing. And it's that sort of back and forth that is creating the inconsistency in the 3D. So yeah, we just want to be keenly aware as to what we're doing because it, until we start to get better and better at observation, our own internal observation, you'll see rather quickly, damn, I thought I was living in the end. I was not. Most people think they're living in the end, but upon closer observation, they're spending about 20 minutes a day living in the end. And the rest of the time is in that old story. So yeah, just you know, begin to become aware more and more of your thoughts, your reactions, and how you genuinely feel in the day to day. And just catch yourself. If you catch yourself, going back to that old story, that's your cue that it's time to go back. It's time to redirect. That's all. Loving your makeup, by the way, we need a tutorial. Tutorial's coming. Tutorial's coming, I promise. I've had so many people ask, so ask and you shall receive. Hi, Missy. What are your thoughts about manifesting a new SB, not an ex, someone who we've never met, and they're basically a bullet list of what I desired in SB, looks, personality, etc. Is that possible? Yes, absolutely. So for manifesting a new SP, just like you had mentioned there, um, get very, very clear on what that looks like. Write it out. Get clear on what do you desire to see in a partner? What are the traits that you're looking for? Yeah, and looks, personality, all of that. Yeah, I would make that list. I get very clear on it, and then drop it. Drop it. You'll find a lot of success stories from people who had manifested their person from what you've just described right there. Just getting clear on the traits of that person. Every week I wonder what your caffeine is. Is it like an energy drink? No, it's green tea. It's green tea. It's the best green tea ever, ever, and I will die on that hill. No, it's green tea. Is self-inquiry vital for you when it comes to manifesting? Should we first go into full consciousness mode, zero identification with thoughts, prior to visualizing? Good question. I wouldn't say self-inquiry is like required, but it's going to be exponentially helpful. Like exponentially more helpful than not. Essentially, the self-inquiry that he's referring to is going back to that unconditioned consciousness, zero identification with thoughts, beliefs, etc. Yeah. Um, I wouldn't say that we have to do that prior to visualizing, like every time, but it, it is helpful to get into a more drowsy, relaxed state to at least begin to uh, detach from some of those traits and those beliefs, those concepts of self, so to speak. Self inquiry is an incredible practice. I do recommend it, like full stop. It will be helpful. Um, but no, I don't want to say it's a requirement. Hi, Missy from Melbourne. Just wondering when you revised over 200 things in the past, how long did it take you to do it? Um, I think there was a second part to your question, but it got cut off. So how long did it take me to revise? Like the time that it took to actually revise, or how long it took for everything to show up differently? Well, the revision itself, so when I did that, I used to work in film and television, and there was in film and TV, you have a break. Everybody gets a break between Thanksgiving and like the week after New Year's. There's typically everything shuts down for the holidays. So I really took advantage and utilized that time to getting my shit together, for lack of better words. So I revised a lot. A lot, a lot, a lot. How long did it take? I mean, all said and told, maybe a handful of weeks until everything felt natural, until the new stories felt natural, the new memories felt natural. Handful of weeks, if I had to gauge it. But I mean, the thing that's important to remember about revision is you can revise something very quickly. Um, if we're talking about revising an event, like I revise most nights before bed, and it's a couple of seconds, like quite literally. Revision can be very quick. It's not something that's like painstaking or difficult. That I do promise. Hi, Missy. I'm really good at tapping into an elated slash relief that this is finally here feeling during meditation slash that, but have a hard time with the this is normal feeling. Is this hurting things? No, no. And you very well may have moments of those feelings of elation. You can like sometimes that does occur naturally. I guess the point that I was trying to make about that, when it comes to feeling, is we don't want to try to force ourselves to feel ecstatic or elated or giddy or anything like that. That's going to feel very challenging to do, and it's gonna feel very forced and not very real, right? But if the feeling of excitement or the feeling of giddiness, if that comes up for you naturally, which does happen, sometimes that's fine. And what you're gonna start to notice is that more and more that wish fulfilled feeling is gonna feel more and more normal to you. Whereas before it perhaps felt like a daydream or a pipe dream, it felt far away, it felt not possible. It's gonna start to feel more and more natural just as you go about your day to day. Yeah. So no, like feeling any sort of excitement when we're doing sats is not in and of itself a bad thing, not at all. We just don't want to try to force ourselves to like feel big emotions because there's no need for that. If they come up naturally though, that's awesome. I hope that makes sense. Why, when I keep revising a scene where my SP said he never wants to be with me and doesn't like me, in 3D I get the same response constantly. He does not love me, doesn't want to be with me. So why is it that despite your revision, your SP is showing up in the way that you don't like? I take it. Probably because there's still a strong conviction to that belief. Um, in that case, we may need to continue to revise. And in that case, we do need to continue to revise it. Um, because it's ultimately our beliefs and assumptions that manifest, right? It's what we feel is real and true and normal for us. Anything like that is typically what becomes expressed. So if we're seeing the undesirable circumstances unfolding, that means that there's still that conviction that we have that they are this way or that this is how it is. So again, it comes back to the 70 times 7. And this is where the persistence part of manifestation comes in. We want to continue to go back to the wish fulfilled. Um, yeah. And I know it may feel incredibly difficult if you're continuing to receive 3D confirmation of what you don't want. And if you feel like that is really hindering you, if that feels like that's really causing things to be more difficult, perhaps take a break from everything. If you need to have a moment to just collect yourself, and really just have a moment with yourself and really going within, basically taking a break from the 3D for a minute, I would do that. Yeah. But basically we want to continue going back. How to reduce the fear of not getting our manifestation. I feel like that is my biggest block to SP. I fear he will move on without me. Yeah, I think this is an incredibly common fear. I think virtually everybody has this fear when it comes, especially with SPs. I certainly had this fear. How do we reduce it? So you feel like that fear of it's not going to happen is keeping you from imagining the end, imagining the wish fulfilled. I mean, first off, we have to understand that fear is not it's not real. It's not anything. It's a hypothetical scenario that we're literally making up in our imagination. That they're going to move on without us. It's all imagination. All of these hypothetical scenarios, all of these what ifs, it's all imagination. So if they're all stemming from the same source, our imagination, then what if they do come back? What if they do come around? Right? What if this does work? What if because we're doing the what if game anyways. So why not use it in our favor? If there's equal chances for any scenario, because again, they're all hypothetical, um, Continue to try to practice putting it in your favor. Also, I'd recommend really focusing on, again, building trust and faith in the law. Because if obviously if there's doubt that this is gonna work, it's gonna feed into that fear. It's gonna feed into that fear. Lastly, I would practice just letting yourself imagine something for the sake of feeling better. Because if the alternative is to, you know, sit in fear and stress and discomfort and frustration, I mean, why would we ever pick that one? You know what I mean? So yeah, know and understand that fears are not real. It's all coming from where? Where is it stemming from? The fear that he moves on. Who says that that's a thing? Where is that coming? It's coming from your imagination. The same place that we can also instead imagine that they do come back, that they already came back. Right? See, we're doing this all the time. All the time, all the time, all the time. Like we're literally in our imagination all day, every day. We've just grown accustomed to these worst case scenarios. We've given more power and trust into these worst case scenarios, but it's all the same thing. They're all hypothetical states that exist nowhere except your imagination. So yeah, continue to go there for no other reason than it feels good. It feels enjoyable. Use your imagination as an escape from the 3D. Use it as your sanctuary. Yeah. And continue to build your faith and trust in the law. Continue to show yourself and prove to yourself that you are, in fact, the operant power. Because I know for most people, like we want so bad to believe this, we want so bad to trust that this is real. But for a lot of people, saying full-fledged, I trust the law, I've bought that pearl, yeah, not very many people can say that. So, but we can change that. We can continue to build our trust and show ourselves. So I would absolutely be doing that as well. Haley, what's up, girl? Terry, I made a note to make sure that you get an email as well. Not a problem. When visualizing or using SADS, can you visualize multiple scenes? With each session, can you choose different scenes or do the scenes have to be consistent? Absolutely. You can choose multiple scenes. Yeah. 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 My imagination is usually like in a montage anyways. Like it's clips. That's totally fine. John, you're awesome. Yeah. Yeah, for those who sign up for one-on-one coaching, what happens typically is you'll be forwarded to a confirmation page where there's the link to the calendar and the intake form, where you can book your meeting and all of that. Um, if for any reason you were not forwarded, yeah, I will go ahead and reach out and make sure you get all that info. My apologies for that if that was the case. I lost my spot. Damn it. Damn it. All right. Have you ever been in a place where you keep wanting to ask questions, but you already know exactly what you need to do? Imagine, but you just don't do it. It feels silly. Yeah, that's resistance. That's resistance. Yeah. Resistance can show up in all sorts of weird ways: procrastination, forgetfulness, feeling silly. Yeah, all sorts of weird ways. That's all resistance. Yeah. Yeah. Most people who, have been watching videos for a while know exactly what to do. It's the being doers of the word and not just hearers only. Yeah, that's the ego. Hello, Jennifer. Hi. Would like to hear your thoughts on the purge. Uh, would like to hear your thoughts on the purge. In other words, when things seem to be going awry before the manifestation comes. Yeah. So I wouldn't necessarily call it a purge. Uh, More so ego backlash. More so that's the old man fighting back. Um, yeah, where you've been kind of doing your thing, you've been gaining some momentum, perhaps you've had a breakthrough, or you've been doing really well, and then seemingly out of nowhere, like everything just goes to hell. Yeah, that's ego backlash. And it's the old man throwing a fit, basically. Yeah. But I mean, half the battle is just knowing what that is and understanding that it's not because it's so abrupt, right? It can be it can be a shock to us because we've been doing very well, doing well, and then out of nowhere, it's like everything just goes to crap. Like we feel like crap. 3D circumstances are crap. So it's a very stark contrast of like what the hell happened, and then we kind of spiral from the shock of it all. Yeah, I made a video talking about this ego backlash, and like I said, half the battle is just understanding what's happening here. I mean, it's the same reason why like 88% of people who you know make New Year's resolutions don't stick to them for more than a month. It's ego. It's ego. Ego doesn't want to change. Ego is that sense of self, right? The self concept, and it wants to stay where it's familiar, it's comfortable. It may not be ideal, but at least it's safe. You know what it looks like. You know what to expect. Yeah, yeah. But continuing to go to the end, every time you continue to go to the end, that ego backlash will lessen until it is non-existent. I get a lot of tarot card readings. I would take those with tiny grain of salt. Yeah. Yeah. I would not. Tarot card readings are it's your own self pushed out is what that is. What was the study someone mentioned earlier? I want to check it out too. Um, did somebody refer to a study earlier? I know somebody mentioned the Nobel Prize winners last year in physics. I think that's what you might be referring to, and I would definitely look that up because it's wild, and it kind of goes further into confirmation that there are infinite realities, there are infinite states. Hey, Missy, can we miss out on our manifestation? Like not reading a mail on time or anything, and we sort of miss out on the opportunity that can get us to our manifestation. I hope you get my question. Um, I mean, it's possible for us to miss the mark if that's what you mean. Um, but is it possible to completely fail at this and miss the only opportunity or the only window to manifest? No, no, that's never possible. And we can always if we miss the mark, if we fail to manifest something, perhaps by a desired time or this scenario that I wanted to see happen and perhaps it didn't happen in the way I wanted it to, we can still change it. We can still change it. Absolutely. Hi, Missy. What if we have a great self concept? I am worthy of commitment, I'm desirable, etc., but negative beliefs about our specific person, avoidant attachment style. Mm, yeah, yeah, and I would say that's one of that's incredibly common. A lot of people have described similar things because our self concept is not just our beliefs about ourselves. That's self-esteem. Our self-esteem is how we feel and view ourselves, right? That I'm worthy, I'm loved, I'm confident. That's all self-esteem. Self-concept also includes the beliefs and assumptions about other people and just the world around you, right? So, um, a lot of times, if you have been working on your self-esteem, but there's still very much a undesirable story or belief about your person, uh, that's where yeah. Yeah, in that case, I would focus on seeing your person in a different light, seeing a new version of them. How would you want them to show up? How would you want them to treat you? How would you want them to, you know, talk to you, talk about you? Get very, very clear and go there in imagination. Continue to see them as the version of them that you desire to experience and keep going back there. And yeah, I know the attachment style thing is huge and oof, it's caused a doozy for sure. But none of that ultimately matters because there are infinite versions of your person. So there is a version of your person who does have a secure attachment style. So that's the one that we're aiming to manifest. We're not manifesting the avoidant, right? So we want to practice dropping that entirely. When I get into sats, I suddenly am aware of my bodily resistance or my bodily sensations and more, and I feel wait, where'd you go? The chat just moved. When I get into sats, I suddenly am aware of my bodily sensations and I feel itchy and then I fight the urge to move and scratch. Is this resistance? Any of yes, that's resistance. hmm and that it's incredibly common. Yeah. Yeah. Any advice? I mean, continue to practice. I would practice perhaps during a different time in the day, right? Like in midday, in meditation, and just practice like getting yourself as relaxed as possible and coming out of it. Like practice with just the going deeper aspect first. And then waking yourself back up, getting more just getting yourself familiar with being in that drowsy state. I would just practice continuing to go back there. Because inevitably that will subside. Yeah, resistance cannot keep hold of you forever. I promise. I want to know that for manifesting, do we need to only visualize, imagine the fulfilled desire, or take some actions for the desire to come true? We only need to imagine. As far as what we are doing consciously, all we're doing is imagination. Like, we're just going to imagination. That's it. Whatever actions need to be taken, whether that's from you or someone else, that will happen. It will happen in a way that you're not conscious of it, right? Inspired action is action that we are not aware in that moment or at that time what is going on. So inspired action is unconscious. Any kind of action is unconscious. So yeah, it's not required to take any kind of action. The only action that we're taking is in here. I feel angry at my SP now because I realize my worth for the first time in my life and how he treated me the past 4 years. I know what I know what I want in him and what I want him to be like, but my brain is like, "Grr." Oh. Yeah. Yeah, that's common. So, as you continue to see yourself in a different light, as you continue to focus on imagining and feeling yourself as somebody who is worthy, somebody who is chosen, somebody who is confident, yeah, it's not at all uncommon to start to feel anger at that old story. You know, that many people have been through similar things, and what we want to do in this instance now is change the way in which you see him, right? Because we're not wanting to manifest that old version of them. I think that's safe to say you don't want to manifest that old version of them anyways. So this is about seeing them in your imagination as you would want to see and experience them in the 3D. And if that feels like too much resistance right now, if it feels like there's too much pushback, then perhaps just take a step back and go more general for the time being. If at any point we're up against a wall of resistance about our specific person and how they showed up as a total jackass and they did this and they did that, um, again, that's fair. That's, as you are gaining more confidence and you're moving into a version of you that knows her worth, yeah, you're gonna feel angry at the way you were treated. Um, and that's okay. But if there's too much resistance to imagining that specific version of them, seeing them in that specific light, um, I would focus on being more general for the time being and revision, 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 revision. I notice a couple people here have questions about how to help change the person that they're trying to manifest, especially if there was a bad history or just if the version in the 3D is not ideal. And this is where we practice seeing them as the version of them that we desire to, because there's infinite versions of everybody, literally infinite versions of everyone. So there is a version of your person, even if they have shown up as a complete dickhead in this 3D and they've been nothing but terrible. There's a version of them that is great, that is loving, and I'm sure you've probably seen hints of that, otherwise you probably would have never fell for this person, right? You probably at some point saw a loving, more kind and compassionate version of them, I would assume, I would hope, right? So we're going there. We're going to that state. We're seeing that in imagination. Your imagination is how you select. That's what we always want to remember. Your selection, how you select states of consciousness is always through here. So we want to practice seeing them in as the version of them that we want to experience. And if that feels like there's too much resistance to that, kind of like what I was just mentioning to Alice, if there's too much resistance to that because of the old story, well, you know, that's where we want to fall onto revision. We want to revise and perhaps go more general. Go more general for the time being. As we also revise and just focus on getting rid of that old story. Because if that old story is still alive in us, if that is what is resonating and feeling most real to us, yeah, we don't want that. We don't want that. But that is what revision is for. Like genuinely, sincerely, that's what revision is for. Getting rid of an old story. I suppose it's a choice between choosing a new state of consciousness or if your emotions get the better of you. Yeah, yeah. And hey, sometimes our emotions get the better of us. I mean, we're humans still, right? We are very conditioned and limited as our self-concept. In this human form, we have emotions, and that's okay. Nothing wrong with that. If you need to explode, explode, but don't let the sun descend upon your anger. And that just means revise it. Revise it. Like, get it out, be pissed at them if you need to be pissed, like, cuss them out in your head, like, tell them off, and once we sort of let it out and we feel a bit better, we feel a bit lighter, go back and revise it. Yeah, yeah. Infinite versions of everyone. Infinite versions of everyone. How do I manifest for my autistic daughter? She's nonverbal, so when she's upset or hurt, she can't tell me what's wrong or where she's hurting. How can I help her? It's so sad. It feels, oh, Allie, I'm so sorry. And I know, God, when it comes to our kids, I know that is where, I mean, it can feel incredibly challenging when our child is hurt and our child is suffering. That is an incredibly powerless feeling. But uh, first place I would start is there any kind of scenario? Is there any kind of like if you were to go into your imagination and see like what would indicate that she is now able to communicate? Like you're selecting a state essentially where she is able to communicate or something of that sort, you know? Um, but I would continue to get familiar with that. I would continue to allow yourself and it may not feel possible, it may not feel doable, and that's okay, but we really want to come around to remembering that all things are possible in imagination. All things are possible in imagination. There's nothing we can't imagine, right? Even if it feels non-realistic, even if it doesn't feel possible, we can still imagine it. We can still imagine it. So I would practice getting familiar with the state where she is able to communicate. She is able to, to indicate when something is wrong and what is wrong. And what would that look like for you? What perhaps would that show up as for you? Like if you are trying to picture a state, if you're trying to describe a state where that's the case, how would that be? Like describe it to yourself and continue to go back to that. And I know it's hard and when the 3D shows up in a way that is not desirable, it's easy to fall off track, and that's okay. Because our imagination isn't going anywhere. We can always go back. We can always go back. We can always go back. But it might help to watch the video that I made about synthetic versus creative imagination. And this actually might be helpful for a few people in here that have talked about, manifesting different versions of people when it feels impossible. Um, and once again, I forget the name of that title, but I made a video talking about the two types of imagination that we use most dominantly: synthetic imagination and creative imagination. And the vast majority of us as adults use synthetic imagination, and that's basically where we're only imagining the same old, right? We're basically recycling and regurgitating based off of old information, old beliefs, and all of that. And it feels very challenging for us to imagine something that perhaps feels impossible or we haven't experienced yet. But through the creative imagination, you can construct any world. You can literally go anywhere. And it's like a muscle. It really is like a muscle in the sense that we need to practice exercising this creative imagination and going outside of the box of what feels possible, what feels believable, what feels doable to us. I'm trying to find right now what the name of that video is. Imagination creates your reality, how to manifest anything that you desire. Yeah. If you type that in the search box, imagination creates your reality, how to manifest anything you desire. And it has a thumbnail that says manifest anything using your imagination. And in that video, I go a lot more into detail about how we can start to build up our creative imagination, because that is our connection to God. That is our connection to God. And so despite impossible circumstances, even if it feels not real or doable or anything like that, if we can imagine it, that's all we need to do. That's all we need to do. So just like a muscle, we're exercising. We're exercising and we're building up. I believe that imagination is way more powerful than affirmations. If we imagine positively on what we want, affirmations come on its own. That's a good point. That's a really good point, Fallen Boy. Well, affirmations are one aspect of your imagination. Your imagination is your internal world. That's the world in your mind. So it's your thoughts, it's your reactions, it's the inner dialogue, everything that's going on internally. It's what we use to, you know, uh, it's our memories. It's what we use to like plan things. All the things that are going on in here, that's taking place in your imagination. So affirmations are one aspect out of many many aspects. I feel like there are so many instances in my life where something happens that was so unexpected. How are we manifesting things like this if thoughts create reality? Um, so how are we creating things unexpectedly? Well, thoughts themselves don't create reality. And I just made a video about this actually, like one or two videos back. It's not the thoughts themselves. We do have thoughts that manifest, to be clear. That can and does happen because our thoughts are the byproduct of whatever state of consciousness we've been occupying. So it just like the 3D circumstances is the byproduct of the state that you're occupying, so are the thoughts. Yeah, so it's not the thoughts themselves. It's the beliefs, it's the assumptions. What feels real, normal, natural to us. Um, if we have expectations, if we feel like something's going to happen, even if you know all of that, it's the assumptions that matter. Hence the law of assumption. We didn't manifest war, cancer, murders, disabilities. We grew up knowing these things are possible and happen. It isn't. Yeah, no. The you that is your self-concept did not manifest those big things. Um, and it helps to have better understanding of the I guess the higher self, for lack of better words, the I am or God, and the ego self, the self concept or the human self. Yeah. I and my father are one, but the father is greater than I. Yeah. What do you think about asking for signs that it is done? Your subconscious mind has been impressed. I've asked to see a specific sign, a pink starfish, and 2 days later, someone sent me a pic of it. So, and I just got done filming a video about signs. Um, Signs from the 3D are it's a past impression that we're just seeing now. It doesn't mean that it's necessarily leading to something. Uh, Honestly, one of the best things we can do is get ourselves out of the habit of looking to the 3D for signs. And I know that's easier said than done. But all of the 3D, what we're seeing right now, it's all old impressions. Like what we're seeing around us today is the outpicturing of things that were impressed yesterday or a week ago or a month ago. The best gauge that we have is our reactions, our like what's coming up for us internally. Hence why like my biggest goal for this channel is to help people turn from the 3D and start using the gauge that is internal. That one is going to be much better gauge than trying to look for signs in the 3D because signs follow, they don't precede, as Neville would say. What if I do not believe in my affirmations, but I am just repeating them? Um, I know that this is a common thing that's taught. You know, loop affirmations until they one day magically become believable. For myself personally, and this is just for me, but affirmations have worked when they resonate. Like the times that I've used affirmations and was successful with it was when they resonated or if I was somehow able to get behind them or believe them. Now that's not to say that they don't work or can't work or anything like that. But if you're noticing a lot of resistance, I would play around. I would play around with different techniques and different ways to imagine that perhaps can come with much less effort. We want to aim for the path of least resistance and least effort when possible. On that note, I got maybe time for one more question. Would you ever write a book on all this and your story? I would definitely purchase that. I am writing a book. I am writing a book. I was not, yeah, not announcing it yet, but since you asked, yes, I am. Y'all are the best. I'm afraid of visualization because you said in one video we can manifest our desires for someone else if we don't do it right. Oh, damn it. My apologies. My apologies. I'm certainly not trying to spread fear in any of my videos. I think you're referring to imagining from first person versus third person. And we do want to practice if we're talking about visualization specifically. If we're talking about visualization, we do want to practice visualizing from the first person. And the simple reason is because we're all imagining from first person, right? Like we're living our life from first person. This experience that we're having, we're seeing it through our eyes, not seeing ourselves out there. Um, and whatever we are imagining from first person, visualizing from first person, like that is the impression that you're leaving, and whatever is impressed becomes expressed, right? So that would be more ideal. And it can take some getting used to. It could take practice with visualizing in first person. I know a lot of people are not used to doing it that way. Um, but rest assured, with some practice, you can absolutely get there. You can absolutely get there. And don't let fear hold you back in any of this. Don't let fear hold you back, 'cause you're the operant power. What is there to fear? What is there to fear? Like, if you're creating all of it, then what is there to be scared of? If it's us creating, then what are we scared of? That we're gonna make a mistake? Okay, we can fix it. We can always fix it. You know what I mean? Yeah. Yeah, don't let the fear take the control here. No. Continue to go back, continue to go back, continue to practice. Because no matter what, this is your world. This is you that has control over every aspect of it. Always. Always, always, always. And that goes for every one of you here. That goes for every single one of you here. And on that note, guys, I do need to get going, unfortunately. Damn it. Really could spend all day just hanging out here. And maybe one of those days I might have to. But thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you for joining me. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your weekend. Great questions, by the way. Sincerely. I enjoyed this. I hope you did too. And I hope to see you guys here next week. Take care, y'all. Bye.